You're listening to the Grit to Growth podcast. Real talk with real business owners and professionals who built their freedom the hard way and now want more time, money, and impact.
Hello and welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Levi Tesla, here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota with Mailbox Money. And I'm joined today by Ryan Junek from Spearfish, South Dakota. Ryan is the owner of Juneks Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, and we are excited to have him here today. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Levi. Excited to share whatever stories you want to hear.
Yeah, well, Ryan, let's start with a little bit of your personal background. Where'd you grow up, and we'll get into your journey from there.
Well, I'm a fourth generation business owner in Spearfish, and in the car business in particular, there's a saying: you either trip and fall into it, or you're born into it. And I was definitely the latter. I was born into it. My family went broke on a farm south of Kimball, South Dakota during the 29, and they really did the grapes of wrath thing and loaded up all their kids and their Model A and their closest relatives, and they headed west with the goal to get to Seattle, Washington. That's where they were trying to get to, and they broke down in Spearfish, and this would have been 2930, and so at that time, Spearfish was not very big. The largest population in the state at that point was in Lee Deadwood area. So our county seat, just 20 miles up the road. And they carved themselves out a little life. And that ended up being the second gas station in town. We're just about 3 blocks from Black Hill State University. And the highway that runs through right by the football stadium and where the campus kind of originally was the highway from to Belfouche and to Sundance, Wyoming. So we had a nice little corner gas station here, and we've survived all these years. So I'm the fourth generation to be fighting this battle on this corner in this little small corner of South Dakota, and love it. But yeah, I was born into it. My father was the only one of the 4 second generations. That there were several kids there. He was the only one that came back and took over the business. And so for my personal stuff, I started washing cars when I was 13 years old and driving illegally in Spearfish around our little block here. And I was typically doing that. The rule was if I wasn't involved in some kind of activity, then I had to be at work working. And that was washing cars up until I was about 17, 18 years old. So went to college, went to the University of South Dakota in Vermilion, had 4 wonderful years there. And when I was getting towards the end of graduation, I wasn't 100% in love with coming back and working for my father and selling cars. That just did not sound appealing to me. And so I had a couple other opportunities that would have taken me towards the eastern part of the country. And wow. Just serendipity happened. The Thrifty car rental franchise in the Rapid City Airport was the only franchise that wasn't owned by a car dealership. And at that time, there was a Hertz Avis National Budget and Thrifty. And so that family, the people that own that, reached out to my father and asked if we'd be interested in purchasing it. And so we ended up buying that my senior year of college. And I went right to work running my own business in the Rapid City Airport for 9 years. So I did that. We bought that we bought late 97, took over in 98. And I did that for 9 years. Lived in Rapid City from 98 to 2003. I was driving back and forth between Rapid and Spearfish, all basically car business. You know, the car rental world is very much one foot in the car business, the other foot in the travel industry. And
Yeah.
so,
Split.
it was a wonderful opportunity to learn on my own. Had about 4 or 5 employees, did all my own accounting, and the story I like to tell is as far as how it's helped me in the future is in 97, 98, 80% of the car rental reservations or airlines or hotels were all made by travel agents. And by the time
Yeah.
I got out 9 years later, 80% of the reservations were made online, either through a third party or directly on our own website that we were franchised in with. And the travel agents went down to 20%. So I lived through that transition on that industry. And of
That's
course
very
that
interesting.
that led to most of my decisions now as the world is turning and marketing and that sort of thing. And we got stuff like AI showing up. So I've always been interested and stayed at the tip of the sword on those types of technologies because honestly, that's how my family has ran this business for a long time. And my grandfather's stories when he was growing up, in the 30s, were he helped all of his family members put electricity in their house at that time, so because that was the cutting edge technology in Western South Dakota at that point. So yeah, it kind of runs in the blood, but that's really my personal history. We sold the car rental business. I'm married with 2 children. My children are now young adults or in college age. And at that time, I was driving back and forth between Rapid and Spearfish, and it just got to be too much. It was too much of a time commitment, and just narrowed life down to the car dealership. So
I like it. Well, Ryan, that there's a whole lot to unpack in that story and everything, but
yeah,
I think I think one thing I want to is it really puts in perspective the technology changing and stuff through your family's history. I think everyone thinks that seems so foreign, right? But like you said, that
yeah.
was your grandfather doing that, and uh, that's really kind of shaped on what you're doing today, correct?
Yeah, I'm still in on the same corner. My service building, which had a couple different renditions, was essentially built by my grandfather and his brother's hands, and we're still using it today. So it's amazing their foresight on a lot of it. And it was a very large building, very large investment in Spearfish at the time they did it. The big building was built after World War II, but we have pictures of them putting the cinder blocks, on, and even some of the tools that they fabricated themselves, we still use to maintain parts of the building. So that's just kind of my bloodline on some of that, and of course I was raised in the town with my grandfather, his 2 brothers, and his sister. So I and then I had my mother's side of the family in town too. So I basically had 5 to 6 sets of grandparents, doing other things than work, taking me fishing and that sort of thing. So I had a lot of mature role models that, passed a lot of knowledge on down. And
Um,
technology is one of them, that's for sure.
Amazing. Well, obviously, you're several years probably removed of. Is your dad still involved in the business, or is he all retired
Yeah,
and everything?
yep. No, we've been partners since '98. However, he is in his mid to late 70s. So the bell to bell, he is definitely not a part of that anymore. It's basically 100% me. One thing I know a lot about multi-generational businesses. Of course, there's a lot of those in South Dakota, not just in
Yep.
my world, but definitely farming and ranching. And there's challenges there. Obviously, when you have several siblings, several cousins that are involved. I've been lucky that I was the only one really involved. So after all that, but uh, what was your original question? I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was gonna get to kind of what you're saying there, multi-generational businesses. I just did an interview with a gentleman who's starting his own machining shop, and he's kind of the reason why he's doing it is because he had 2 twin boys, and so I
Yeah.
guess my question is, to get into those, what are kind of some of the advantages, maybe the disadvantages, and how you could turn those into maybe something not as detrimental or hurtful into a positive?
Yeah. So it is challenging to go from generation to generation. My father and I's relationship has been wonderful, but he is to that stage of life where he's only coming in about 15, 20 minutes a day. Thanks to technology, he still stays mentally involved because, of course, everything is up in the cloud, so he can watch the numbers, check
Yeah.
on cash flow, that sort of thing. And then we have cameras all over the place. So his main entertainment, besides listening to news, is basically watching the camera system. And
Checking in on you.
yeah, exactly. And I watched my father's relationship with his father and how that got handed off, and that's basically how I got involved. Is I was willing to come back and do this on the long term, and everyone is overjoyed in the family that it's still here, and so it's wonderful to have those opportunities. The challenge is then you basically have a lifetime of defending something, and so that's a unique experience that is not necessarily unique in South Dakota, but it is on a day-to-day basis with a lot of people, and but it takes a lot of teamwork and maturity. The saying in my family, and I was raised this way with my grandfather and his brothers, is, and my parents passed this down, is, what, every day is a new day. It's a brand new day. Yesterday we might have been throwing tools at each other, but here we are starting again. And we gotta keep going forward. You gotta keep moving forward. And if you get hung up on something in the past, that's usually when you see disintegrations, or if not relationships, just business partnerships.
Yeah.
And business partnerships are the same way. It's just family gets a little bit messier sometimes. But thankfully, I haven't
Get to
had
see each other at the Thanksgiving dinner table, right?
Yeah, well, especially on my Junek side of the family, we did Christmases. I mean, the whole damn crew. And it ended up, I mean, I think we'd have 28, 30 people, and half of those people worked with each other all the time,
Yep.
every day. So yeah, pretty interesting. But yeah, so those are the challenges, and but at same time, it's brings great advantages. My grandfather and his brothers are really good about splitting talents, or they leaned into the talents that they had themselves.
Yeah.
My grandfather was kind of the mechanic and the drill sergeant, I guess is the best way to put him. His next younger brother was the salesman, was the Chamber of Commerce guy, and was in organizations and kind of kept the name out front in the community in a business sort of way. And then their youngest brother could fix anything. And so until the day he passed away, he came into work every day, changing light bulbs and fixing things in the building that, they all built together. So they really leaned into that. And I think most families, whether it's farming, ranching, car business, or anything else, you kind of have to have that element at a certain point. You can't have all 2 or 3 people be great at everything, but on top of each other.
Well, Ryan, besides the car business, what are some other things that you're involved with today?
Well, right now it is mostly car business oriented. My wife and I are recent empty nesters, which has been kind of a fun and interesting life change. That's all happened in the last 24 months or so, and we really enjoy it. And so it's almost like we're back out of college again, and have not so much a packed social event agenda, but she works for Black Hills State University, so we seem to always have something going on, either publicly or privately. So we've been having a good time with that. I'm also heavily involved in the South Dakota Auto Dealers Association, which is automotive oriented, and really I've been in that the last 5-6 years solidly. But as soon as my kids got out of the house, it kind of went into full steam ahead. So, but it's been really interesting getting involved in South Dakota local politics. And basically, we are the lobbying arm for the South Dakota auto dealers and everything that is associated. We're all licensed and bond businesses. You have to have a human being at the end of that, rope if you have a consumer dispute or anything like that. And of course, we're dealing with franchises. The new car dealers are, but used car dealers are the same way. And the car business is a pretty big part of every community it's in, especially in South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, are the states I'm probably have the most contact with. And so there's a lot to watch there. Goofy laws can come in and throw a curveball at you that might not hurt you today, but might hurt you 4 or 5 years down the road. And and the only way to properly monitor that is to be involved, and that just means you have to show up to events and show up to peer in particular. So I go to peer about 3 or 4 times a year, usually in a lobbying kind of aspect, and not necessarily on the Capitol steps, but definitely get to know the state senators and the representatives from across the state, and just being familiar, and that's the way the people that are involved on that end want that to be. They don't want you to be a stranger coming up and freaking out over some kind of law that has been proposed. So it's been a great ride. We also go to Washington, D.C. every year as well. So our big three, we have meetings there. I've done that 5 years in a row as well. And those are involvements that you kind of swear to yourself you're never going to do, or if it's like, someone else can handle that, and then you age into it. Age and experience get you into it, and and once the off factor is gone, it ends up being pretty interesting and fun to get to know all those people and their staffs. But yeah, so we passed a big title bill last year to move vehicle titles into a possible e-title situation. So we're not all handing paper around. We still can do that, but in this day and age, there is opportunity for fraud out there, either between state to state and that sort of thing. And so that's another example of technology. Technology keeps moving forward, and change is hard for a lot of people. And so a change like that with apprehension should be looked at as caution, but you don't want to be the last state to adopt something like that either. So it's a delicate balance on that. And that was one of our big projects last year in South Dakota auto dealers and the state overall for automotive dealers.
So Ryan, a small dealership or service shop who's never really been involved in the politics side of it, but it obviously affects them and their business, right? Where would you recommend them kind of taking those first steps and getting involved?
On the state side, definitely find out who your association, which association ties you the closest. For new car dealers, it's South Dakota Auto Dealers. The used car dealers also have their own association, not quite as robust, but they do have an organization there, so that if some weird law is trying to come down the road, then they at least have some sort of voice. As far as independent shops, that sort of thing, South Dakota Retailers is a great organization, and has probably some of the best representation in the state, and respect in the state. So usually that one covers everything from hairdressers to service shops to your restaurants, and then I know that there's agriculture ones out there as well. I'm not quite as familiar, but almost every industry has something. I know. I don't know if you guys are part of this association, but the newspaper and the TV and radio have one as well, and I have friends that are involved in that. So there's so many laws that come up and around every session that usually there's an association that is keeping an eye on that. And if you have enough time to do it, usually doesn't take a lot of time. What you're bringing to the table is your knowledge, and on a car dealer side is your ability to communicate. Right? I mean, all we do is communicate all day long, but and having an understanding of how the laws affect you, how they're written, and what are the political motivations of the session at the time, whether it's the executive branch or your elected officials that are local. Oftentimes you'll find that your House Representative person and your state senator are also your customers. And because all three of mine, Lawrence County is the only one with like an entire county where all three are part, and they are all in the store at least 3-4 times a year. And usually we catch up at that point, and then we'll catch up when I'm in Pierre as well.
That's awesome. So Ryan, for those who want to know more about you, your story, or perhaps are looking for a car of some sort, where I guess I'm telling you, feel free to promote and share that with the listeners.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the longest running family businesses in Spearfish and Western South Dakota, for that matter. And about a third of my business goes into the state of Wyoming. Our website, Juneks.com, is updated all the time. It's kind of one of the hourly things we have to do. We also have a very good presence on Facebook and Instagram, and we post something daily, either about our products or the people that work at Juneks, or at events that we're involved with the community. Our big community involvements are with Black Hills State University, Northern Hills Training Center, and we always call it the donation of the day. Basically, if you show up in person and you're doing something for an organization, not so much for an individual, then I will typically help them or help people with whatever they're trying to do. But yeah, we, like all businesses, you kind of have to become your own media company on a certain level, and we have been doing that. Albeit not as fast as I'd like to see it sometimes, but I feel like we're really there too. We're also all over YouTube as well, and all of those is a call to action to try to reach out to us.
Beautiful. That sounds awesome. Well, we'll be sure to be sending people over there, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this episode. It was awesome to hear how you've been maintaining and building upon your family's legacy. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us today.
Yep. Thanks, Levi.
Awesome. Well, we'll see everyone on the next one.
Know someone with serious grit and a great growth story? Send them our way at grittogrowthpodcast.com/guest.